Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and today I am ranking every Terminator movie. So I'm ranking the entire Terminator franchise, all six movies, and this is a franchise that I really love, but a part of me really hates this franchise as a franchise, okay? Like, I'll never stop loving the first two movies, and I actually have a third one on this list that I don't hate. So, with that out of the way, let's get started on my ranking of all the Terminator movies. This one should not come as a shocker, as Terminator Genisys is regarded as the worst one by both the fans and the critics, okay? I don't know what went wrong with this movie, okay? It's got a pretty good cast, but this is one of the movies that I think is so bad, it's like the studio said, we want you to make a bad movie. Seriously, this movie is horrible. And I am not someone who hates movies easily, okay? I like a lot of movies that people say are bad. But this movie, I don't think there is a single thing that can redeem it in my mind, okay? And all of these other movies have something that I can say something good about, except this one. If I were to try, the best I can come up with is I don't hate it when J.K. Simmons is on the screen, okay? I don't hate it when he's on screen, but like seriously, this movie has some of the dumbest ideas of this franchise, and it's just so bad. It does have one cool idea twist, but even then, that idea is stupid. But it's like an idea that is so stupid it's kind of cool. And then the twist is revealed in the trailer, which is something that this franchise kind of does with all of its movies, where it gives away this big twist in its trailers. It did it with T2, it did it with Salvation, it does it with all of them. But anyway, number 6, Terminator Genisys. I don't know how this movie is as bad as it is. I've only seen it once, and I think that's too many times. Number 5, Terminator Dark Fate. This movie should honestly be in dead last, in my opinion, because it is kind of punching the face of the franchise. It's just punching you right in the face if you're a fan of this franchise with some things. In that it says, well, John Connor is not important, so we'll kill him off at the beginning of the movie and then replace him with a girl and just copy the exact same plot that we do with all the movies. So what's the point here, okay? I get it if you wanted to try something new, but it's not trying something new if you just swap out a character. I mean, the thing I can give this movie is I like seeing Linda Hamilton back, and it's got some really good action, and this movie had some great potential, but it honestly falls flat on its face, in my opinion. If you like this movie, that's fine by you. I do not, okay? I'm not a fan of it. I definitely like it more than Genisys because, dear God, that movie is horrible. However, Dark Fate, I'll give it this. It's got some good things going for it, but I think the bad outweighs the good. I can't believe this was made by the same guy who made Deadpool. Number 4, Terminator Rise of the Machines, the movie where it all kind of started going downhill. Now, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, that's something complicated because sometimes it'll just say Terminator 3 or just Terminator Rise of the Machines, but then there are times where it'll say Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Which is its title? I don't actually know. So I'm just going to call it Terminator Rise of the Machines because that's what it's referred to the most. Now, this movie has some good to it. I will give it that. Like, this movie definitely has a lot of good things in it. And some things that I think are good enough to make me want to watch this movie. Yeah, the movie though, it's not that, I don't know. The cast, I'm not talking bad about the actors, but I don't think that they did the best jobs. I don't like this movie's John Connor. I don't really like its other characters. I like seeing Arnold in it because Arnold is always great. Although, like, some people make the claim he kills the franchise when they have to come up with a reason to just place him in every movie, even though it doesn't make sense. and I can kind of get behind that, but I like him in this one. So this movie does have some good, but it also has a lot of bad. But when I say it has some good, it has some things that I will never regret liking, that I will never regret that I like about this movie. And those things are, I think the ending is amazing in this movie and is actually a really good ending to it. I think that some of the action is still really good, but my favorite thing about this whole movie is Talk to the Hand. Yeah, I just like, that is my favorite scene in this whole movie, Talk to the Hand. So yeah, Terminator Rise of the Machines, it's definitely not the weakest one, and this is one that I'll actually rewatch on occasion. But I wouldn't quite call it a good movie. I'd say it's I don't know. It's a bad movie, but it's one of those bad movies you can still watch. Number 3, the movie that I think is honestly the most underrated, and I'm not alone in this. There are people that also defend number 3. Terminator Salvation, the 4th movie in this franchise. Now, I'm not saying this movie is anywhere near as great as the first 2 movies. It's not. I think this movie is good. Not great, good. And I think it deserves way less hate than it gets from people. They kind of just group it in there because it's stuck in between like the bad Terminator movies, and so people usually just group it in there. However, I like the fact that this movie doesn't involve time travel, that it just shows you the future war. I like the cast in this movie. This movie has an amazing cast in it. I like the way how this movie doesn't entirely revolve around John Connor, and it revolves around someone else, Marcus Wright. I like that it does also make John Connor a main character. He's not just forgotten. I like the action in this movie. This movie has a lot of good things going for it, but it does have some flaws in it. And so that's why I don't think it's as great as the other 2. I still think this is a good Terminator movie, but not a great Terminator movie. However, like what all I've said, I think there are some great aspects to this movie, and I definitely think this one is worth watching. If you don't like it, that's fine, because film is subjective. However, I actually do like this one. And if you don't actually want to watch this one because you're afraid that you won't like it, I understand that, because this is a franchise that I can tell you that you should stop at 2. But if you want, you can watch this one. Like, out of them all, I would say that you should watch the first 2, and if you really want to, you can watch this one. But, I mean, I don't know. I do actually like this one. I think it's a good movie. I actually do rewatch this one. It's got some great action, great cast, and a pretty good story in it. But it does have several problems. But now we have reached the part of where these movies get to from dumpster fire to watchable to decent to peak. And this is where you might have a problem, and that's okay if you do. But in second place, I have The Terminator. I know there are a lot of people that argue back and forth on which one's better, 1 or 2. I personally think that 1 isn't as good as 2, but we'll get to that in a bit. Terminator 1. What can I say about this movie that hasn't been said before? This movie came out a while ago, and it's an amazing time travel movie. Like, when you think of time travel movies, you think of Back to the Future, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, like all those. But Terminator always comes up because Terminator is one of the greatest action movies, time travel movies, and it's just an amazing movie. Like, there's not much I can say about this movie. It's creative, it did an amazing idea, and it's still very nice. It still, for the most part, holds up with today's standards, because I think this is a great movie. But number 1 has to be, in my opinion at least, T2 Judgment Day, or T2 Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'm just calling it T2 or Judgment Day because this one, like Rise of the Machines, has several titles that people call it by, but like, I'm not getting into that. I'm going to actually talk about the best movie in the franchise and one of my personal favorite movies of all time. T2. Okay, This movie does a complete 180 on what the first movie did, and it doesn't suck when it does that. In fact, it does an even better story by taking the villain of the first movie and making him the hero. Okay? That is something amazing that they did, okay? With most sequels, it's just copy paste the first movie, and usually they're okay. Sometimes they suck, but like with this movie, no. This is like with Empire Strikes Back. They push it forward and add on to what the first movie did. And I think that this movie is even better because it adds on to Sarah Connor. You actually meet John Connor, and he's great. But the best part about this movie is the T-800 that's sent back, because you see this machine grow to act like a human and get human emotions and to understand what it's like to feel. This movie has amazing action. This is just an amazing movie. There's not much I can say about it. It's like the first movie. What can I say that's original that hasn't been said before? This movie has amazing action. It's funny when it needs to be. It's an amazing story. And honestly, this is where the franchise could have and probably should have stopped. But I think Salvation and several other things from these movies are worth the other ones existing, except for Genisys. But anyway, if you disagree with my Terminator opinions, that's okay, because everybody has their own opinions on this franchise. However, most people just think the first two are the only good ones. Anyway, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off. I look forward to our next encounter in my next video. And let me know down in the comments, what's your ranking of the Terminator franchise? And before I go, I want to let you know, I'll be back.